All right. Hello, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. My name is Stacy Chapman. I am the managing partner here at ThunderTix's. For those of you who don't know me, I have been with the organization for over 20 years now, hard to believe. Today, we are really excited to show you how ThunderTix's makes it easy to brand your public event website. Your ticketing website is often the very first impression that your customers have of your organization. Having a well-branded event website helps build trust. It reinforces your brand and identity, and it also makes customers feel like they're buying directly from you. I know we've all had that experience where you're on a website, you click buy, and it feels like you just got sent to another planet because it looks totally different. And that is what we want to avoid and what we're trying to address with the new web design tools. The best part about all of this is that you don't need a technical background. You don't have to know anything about web design or coding. The new web design tools allow anybody to be able to make these changes so that your ThunderTix's event website will look both polished and professional. For today's webinar, I have set up our demo event website to look just like it does when an organization is brand new to ThunderTix's or hasn't yet added any branding. That way you'll get to see the process from a true blank slate. We'll walk through adding a logo, customizing the footer with an image, choosing colors that match the logo to tie everything together in one cohesive design. I know you're probably going to have questions as we go, and I'd love to hear them. Go ahead and pop them into the Q&A. I'm not going to pause during the demo today just to keep the recording clean, but I promise we're going to come back and get to everybody's questions at the end, and we'll make sure and we'll cover them all. All right, let's go ahead and jump in now and take a look at how we can quickly improve on your starter event website that I know a lot of you still have to one that looks and feels a little bit more like your own. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so hopefully everybody came today and you're logged into your ThunderTix's administrative portal with us so that you can follow along and hopefully do some of these changes as we go along to your own site. So right up here in the public display settings, I'm going to click on that and we're going to go down to the web design tools. That's what we're here to address today. Okay, so this is my demo site that I have up. We've got some events preloaded onto it just so we can see what a typical event website would look like. Again, this is what the default site looks like with green buttons, gray buttons at the top. And we're going to use the new web design tools to brand it. Now, the thing to know about the web design tools is that you can preview and see what it's going to look like before actually making it live. So right now, I'm going to start with the very first thing, and I'm going to add my logo. Most of you should probably have that around. I'm going to upload a logo, and sometimes you'll see the logo appear here like it did, but it doesn't appear quite yet. So I'm going to refresh my page one more time so I can see it. There it is. So I've got my logo here. I chose a logo today that has a transparent background. That's definitely something that you all should be aware of. If your logo has a white background, sometimes if you add background color to the top of the site, you'll end up seeing like a big white block. And that's what we want to avoid, just to have a more polished and professional appearance. So I've chosen the logo here. The next thing I'm going to do, right now it's left aligned, that's the default, but I'm going to go ahead and change mine to center. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do, I don't really like how my logo is touching the top of this black line. So I'm going to add a little margin. That's just a little padding around the logo itself. I'm going to try adding roughly 15 pixels. When I click out of the field, notice that this preview changes. If I just type and I don't click out, it won't update automatically. So just make sure that when you're making changes, you click out of the field once to see your changes get applied. The logo size, I'm not going to change. I like the default size, but you can reduce the size if you want. One important note, you may not have web design background. You can always go smaller on an image without losing clarity, but you can never go bigger. So just make sure that whatever size you upload your logo, if you are going to change the image size, using the web design tools, you only make it smaller than its default size. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and type in https demo site.org. That's going to be my website address. When you type in, this should be your homepage to your website. When you type in your website address, it's going to automatically link the logo at the top of your ThunderTix event listing to go back to your website so that your customers can go back and forth between your site and your events seamlessly. Again, I'll click out of that field. It took the address, it knows it's valid, and we'll move on. So that's everything here for the header. Super easy. Those were quick changes. And again, I want to point out, right now I'm in preview mode. None of my changes that we're going over today are going to be live until you scroll all the way down here at the bottom and you say save, draft, and publish. Each time you make these changes, you should see a little green note coming up in the top right-hand corner here that says draft saved. So I've done everything in the header. I'm going to actually click on this and that closes it up. And I'm going to move down to the general styles. And again, I'm going to go back to my public event website and I'm going to refresh one more time just so everybody can see my logo is not there. So you can make these changes, you can do practice, and you don't have to worry that everybody is seeing your changes live. You can just practice it over here until you're ready to publish. Okay, next, the body background color. These general styles are going to apply on the whole event website. I want to show you, again, colors are defined, as I'm sure many of you have seen, with a hex code. It's alphanumeric, it's 6 digits, letters or numbers. But if you click on this little box here, this is the color box, and you click on this adorable little ink dropper, what I want to do is try and choose colors on my website that are in line with the colors in my logo. So I'm going to click on this ink dropper. And then I'm going to move it over here to my logo. And you'll notice I can hover over any part of my logo to get the colors in the logo. So I'm going to get this lighter part, the top part of the logo. Now I don't want my background color to be exactly the same because then it's hidden. So what I'm going to do is take the color that it chose, and I'm going to slide over here to the left. So it's a little bit lighter, but still add some color. And again, it'll save when you click out. There we go. So I've got a nice little background color. Again, because my logo was transparent, the background color is added behind the logo and I don't have that big white block around my logo. The content background color, I'm going to leave, actually, I'm going to make it not white, but just a tiny bit lighter than white. And this content background color is going to apply to this area here and behind each of these blocks. So again, I'm going to make it, the default is white. I'm going to just go, the white is in the upper left-hand corner. I'm just going to go a tiny bit to the right of white. Let's go right here. Click out. And again, that just gives us some nice division between the heading and the next section, and then some nice division between the body background and each of the tiles. So those are still white. The content font color, you know, I don't love black, so I'm going to choose the dark navy blue. Again, I'm going to use the ink dropper. I'm going to use the dark navy blue that applies here. And that's going to apply. Now, I do want to make this point. This content color doesn't apply to your event description because we have a whole separate section we're going to get to for the event description. So this is a great time for me to segue. I do want to point out that up at the top, the default that we're previewing is the event list, but we have a bunch of different views in here so you can see how your changes apply from one view to the next. So right now, if we had an event where only one event was shown, we can see that the color I chose is going to apply to these directions here. And again, the text down at the bottom, I've got this navy blue here. So that's where my text applied when I chose content text color. It is not yet applied to the description. Just to be clear, answer those questions. I'm going to go back to my event list for the time being, since we're still working on that. The content font family. I personally love a newer font that's a little cleaner. I'm going to choose, and I went through, I liked Open Sans. It's just a little rounder, a little newer looking, and you can see that as soon as I chose that, it did automatically apply to everything. I'm going to leave the weight the same. I don't feel like I need to have it bold like I'm shouting through the internet, so I'm going to leave that. I do like my text to be aligned left. I'm going to leave that too. Text transform will change your text from either, how it is default to all uppercase or all lowercase or capitalizing the beginning of every word. Again, leaving that as its default. Now, the standard text font size is 14 pixels. That can be small for some of our users, but it can be just fine for others. So I'm going to make mine just a teensy bit bigger for today. And you'll see it brought everything just a little bit bigger, and that's going to be throughout the experience. I'm going to leave the line height and the letter spacing alone. The line height is the difference from one line to the next, the spacing. And the letter spacing is the spacing in between the actual letters of a word. So that I'm going to leave as it is for now. And I'm going to close up on the general styles. Call that done. And we're going to now move on to these event box styles. Again, I said I wanted to leave this white, so I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to leave these white for today's purposes. I do want to point out briefly, we do have some organizations who jumped right on the ability to use their web design tools, and I want to show, I'm going to take a moment to just get off this page and just show what a branded event website could look like with an all dark background. This is another organization using ThunderTix's. I think they've done a great job, again, centering their logo, using a black background everywhere, white text, customizing the buttons. So this is what it could look like. We're focusing on that same style today. Okay, the event box styles, getting back to that. So I'm going to leave the background color as it is. The image background color, again, this is the space. If your image doesn't take up the entire square, it's the color that will appear here. Again, if you're using a darker background, you're going to want to make a background to match the image background and the regular background. Since I'm leaving my background as white, I'm going to leave my image background as white as well. So I'm going to leave that. Links are links. So the read more is a link. So your link's color, I'm going to change that. Again, I'm going to use this ink dropper, and I'm going to say I want my links to match this color here. Slight change. There we go. Let's make a little more branded. And that's it for the event box style. Super simple. So I'm going to close that up, move on to the event title. Okay. Now, again, when you use the ink dropper, it's really important that if you want to use it from your logo, that you're scrolled up. If you're down here when you go to do the color and you can't see your logo, you won't be able to access it. So just make sure you're scrolled up. On the event title, I'm going to, again, use this little ink dropper. I'm going to choose this color over here. And that is going to, as you notice, that is going to change for both your title and your date for right now. We don't have customization on just the date just yet, but do know that if you choose the event title color, it will change both. Okay, font family, I like to be consistent. Open Sans again. We'll just make sure everything's got the same. If you wanted to make your title a little bigger, right now the font size is 16 as the default. I'm going to make mine 20 just to see what that does. Right, we're getting a little bigger. I'm going to go up to 23. There we go. Now we're getting a larger title across the board. Okay, I'm going to leave the alignment alone and leave the weight alone. I like the titles as they are. I don't like them all uppercased. So everything else here, I don't need to change. Again, these options are available for you if you want to take advantage of more of these fine-tuning design style changes, but I think for generally, I'm going to leave these as it is for today's demonstration. We can talk about it if you all have any questions specifically on the title after that. So I'm going to close the title, move on to the description. And here, now we're finally on the description. Here's where we can see the description itself. I'm going to change, again, my description to the darker color up here in my logo. If you all know your hex colors and you as a part of your brand, again, you can have those ready and you can always just copy and paste the hex code right into the font color, and it will also apply if you don't need to use the dropper to match your logo. And so we've got the font color here. Again, it's not black, but it's still matching with the logo. I'm going to leave the alignment, leave the weight. Everything else looks good to me. I don't need to make any other changes on this. So I'll jump down to the things that are most important, the cell button styles. Now, by default, we've got this green. It's always been green. I know all of you have seen these green buttons for so long, and this is finally your opportunity to customize it. You can see the logo that I'm using are shades of blue, so the green doesn't look good. So we want to make everything match so that we have one cohesive brand and display. So I'm going to change the background color again. I like the darker one, but somebody else told me they liked the lighter better. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Let me do, actually, you know what? I really do like the dark. I'm going to leave that for now. There we go. So we've immediately changed the button to this dark blue to match the brand. Already it's really starting to take shape, start looking like a more polished site. I do want to point out, and you may notice this right away, this still has a little bit of a green hue around the button. That's because the border color was also green. That was the default. So you want to make sure that you do change the border color to a color that matches. I like to copy the background color and paste that right in the border color so that voila, that green glow is gone, much better. You can make the border the same. You can make it a little darker if you want. Text color in this case was already white, and white still works on these buttons, so I'm going to leave it. The hover background color is so that when you're hovering over the button, you see this little change slightly to let you know that you're on a link, that there's an action that's going to happen. I do like to have a slightly different variation of the hover background color, but not huge difference. Notice here it was, let's see, it was 2 different shades of green, and we're going to do the same, 2 different shades of blue. So for the hover background color, I'm going to start with my same color blue, and then I'm going to make it a little bit lighter by going in. Once it's found, I'm just going to go up a little bit from my current blue. Okay. All right. Looking good so far. Border width. This is where we get into technical speak, but you don't have to know. The border width actually adds like a drop shadow behind the button. That's what that means. So right now its default is 1. The bigger the number you put in here, the more shadow you get behind the button. I don't know that it's really necessary. If you want to add some, you can. For today, I'll just add 3. The border radius is what makes the buttons rounded. Again, this is the CSS or the coding speak that you don't need to know about. You just need to know that the border radius is what makes a button more rounded. Right now, it's not a perfectly square edge. It's got a teeny tiny rounded corner. That's the 2.4 as the default. We'll see what happens when we change it. If I change it to 5, you can see it's a little more rounded. If I change it to 10, even more rounded. We've got some organizations, you know, who have it really rounded. You could get a little crazy with this and really, again, if you have rounded buttons on your site and you want to mimic it, the goal is to have it look the same. So whatever you're doing on your website, that's where you want to copy the same styles. So for today, I'm going to just change mine to 7. I like a slightly rounded button, but not crazy. There we go. All right, font family. Again, I'm a creature of habit. I like the same thing consistent throughout. So I'm going to use the same open sans. I'm going to keep my same alignment in center. You can, of course, move it to left or right if you want to, but I like it centered. I don't necessarily want the text weight means whether it's normal or bold. I'm going to leave mine normal for now. But what I do like for the buy button specifically is to change it to uppercase. Just a personal preference, but I really like the way that it looks. It stands out a little more clean. And here's where I think the line height, the letter spacing, if you wanted a little more spacing so that the words buy tickets actually takes up more of the button, you can increase the spacing. I think right now, let's say I changed it, if the spacing is a 1, if I change it to say a 3, it adds a little, you can see there's a little more separation between the letters. If I change it to a 5, again, same thing. It just spreads it out a little bit more. And you have that capability to just pick and choose, see how you feel. I'm liking the way it's looking right now. So I'm going to stop there. So this is everything with the sell button. The sell button is the buy tickets button here. And here's where, again, I just want to look at some of the other previews to see how my changes are shaping up. If I go to the show only one, I can see that my same sell button has been applied down here on the continue. If I go to membership, again, my subscribe button, same thing. I've got my uppercase with some nice spacing. Everything that you apply here is applied throughout. So just important to keep in mind. The next thing that we're going to address is the continue shopping button styles. Now it's interesting because the continue shopping button really only appears once, and that's when you get to the checkout page. So what I'm going to do so that we can see how our changes look, because right now I can't see the continue button from this preview. So I'm going to choose the checkout page. And so from the checkout page, I can see the continue shopping button here, and I have again the same capability. If I want the same branded look, I can go back to the sell button, copy the color, just paste it. So I have again a consistent look. My draft has been saved, but look what happened there. I added a dark background color, and now I can't read it because my text was gray. So I need to make sure that I change my text color to something that's nice and light and readable. I'm going to change it to white, again in the upper corner here. There we go. Nice and easy to read. Hover background. Again, I love having a hover just so you can see the action move. I'm going to take this color, I'm going to apply it, and then I'm going to make it just, again, a little bit lighter. Scoot that up. All right. And again, this checkout page is just a sample. It's not real. We just have a checkout for what your checkout could look like. And then border color, I'm going to make the same as the background color. Okay. Font family, like the same thing. I'm going to go back to that Open Sans. And I really like these buttons to be uppercase. So I'm going to change them from the default to uppercase. And there we go. So now we've got it nice and noticeable. One other thing that we have available with the continue shopping button that isn't on the other buttons is the size. The default is medium, but if you wanted to make it a little smaller or a little larger, you can. It did make the button just a little bit smaller there. Okay. I think that's a good cover for the continue shopping. Again, you have the same capability to change the border radius. If we wanted to make a little more rounded borders, rounded edges on the button, you can. That's there. But this is the only place that continue button really has any bearing. So I'm going to close that up, and I'm going to move lastly to the footer. So as you can see right now, the footer just has the background color. We've got this light blue. I had an image chosen. This is a great place to take just an image. It's going to go across the bottom of the border beneath the Powered by ThunderTix. I do want to point out one other organization, again, that did a great job with their branding with ThunderTix. I love the way that they match their buttons to their logo. And at the very bottom, I love what they did here. They took an image that had a really nice gradient of the sky moving into a nice, really light color with their white background. So this is all one big image with their hours, the fact that they're a nonprofit, the address, and it fades perfectly into the white background above. You can also create an image that matches your background color or vice versa, but I thought they did a great job. And of course, if you scroll down, you actually get to see the venue, which I thought was a really nice touch as a footer image. Okay, so going back, I'm going to do something similar, not nearly as good as what they did, but I'm just going to choose some movie theater seats. And again, I think that I need to potentially refresh to see my changes go into effect. Let's see. Let's go down to the show only one so I can see what that looks like. There we go. I've got my footer showing again with the little seats down here at the bottom. I chose a color again that goes with the logo, but this is a great place for you to put information about your organization at the footer beneath what's already appearing here. Now, one other thing that we have available, if you wanted to add links to social media, it's really easy. You can add a link here. It's going to automatically be centered and it's going to appear here between this line about more information and powered by ThunderTix. So if I say that the type of link I want to add is social media, and I were to start with a follow us on Facebook, and I put in the Facebook URL, ThunderTix automatically knows, because the URL has Facebook in it, it automatically knows to use a Facebook icon for these links. Now, this is one of the only times that you're not going to get to see the preview for the links unless you save and publish. We have gotten to the end, so I'm going to be comfortable. I like what I'm seeing here. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, save, draft, and publish. And when I go over here to take a look at my public display and I refresh, I can see I've got my new styles and I've got my one little Facebook icon which is linking to my Facebook organization page. And that's what you'll want to do, is link to your own Facebook. You can do the same exact thing. If you added a second one, there's no limit. You can add another one for follow us on Instagram. We don't have much going on Instagram, but for those that do, I think it would be great to add that in, Instagram.com. And again, because Instagram is in the URL, we can see automatically ThunderTix knows what to show. If I scroll down and say save, draft, and publish, and I refresh over here, I've automatically got my Instagram icon showing and ready to go. Nice and centered. You can add a Twitter icon. You even have the ability, one more thing, if you wanted to add a link back to your website again, reinforcing your organization. If I say website and I choose that as my link type, I'm going to say www.thundertix.com. This is going to be the link text that appears. And I'm just going to type in our web address, just so you can see how that's going to appear. And there we go. And adds it right below the icons. It does automatically make sure to open it in a new window so it doesn't lose the page that they're on. And that is about it. I do want to point out the reason we have this section beneath all of these web design tools, this section on CSS. We have been working on these web design tools over the course of the last year, trying to add more and more and more. Not everything has been added. Not everything is totally customizable using this editor. We're still building it out. But for the things that you don't see, you can still overwrite the styles with custom CSS. Obviously, you do need to have a background in CSS or a web developer who knows CSS to add these styles. But if there are things that you don't see that you want to customize that you can't, we'd love to hear about it, and we'll continue working to build this out. I think that wraps it up for me. I'm going to pause. I've been talking for a while now and take a moment. Maggie, do we have any questions?
Yeah, so I actually answered this in the chat to make sure, they were able to follow along, but can you show again how we get to this page, the screen to edit?
Yes, so that's up here, the public display settings. It's right here in your top menu in ThunderTix. When you click on this very first icon, the last option you see says web design tools. And so when you go there, it's going to take you back to this page, and this is where you can do all of the customizing.
Perfect. And then one other question. Can you review for us the difference between making changes and having a draft versus actually publishing it and where the difference is in those two?
For sure. So everything that you do on this page, everything that you do is automatically in preview mode. Nothing is going to be published unless you literally scroll down to the bottom and click Save Draft and Publish. So it's all in preview mode. So right now, just to demonstrate that, if I were to change this margin from 15 to 0, I'm going to see that my logo is now touching the top again. I haven't saved my changes, so I am in preview mode and I can see what it's going to look like. But when I go over here to the public site, I still see that my logo has that margin and has that padding. And that's because what I'm doing in preview mode, I can do, I can practice, I can change things. And when I like what I see, I'll publish it. Hopefully that answered the question. Any others?
I'm not seeing. Oh, here we go. Um, is there documentation showing what each field changes on the pages? And I think there's a feeling if they forget what's going on or don't want to access the video, are we highlighting that somewhere where each button does X change?
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know that we do have documentation down to that detail. I definitely recognized as I was going through this, preparing for today's webinar, um, when I was looking at little details like the cell button size, and we talked again about border width and border radius, and that those names are more technical and they're not super obvious to the general user what they mean. So one of the things that I decided that I'd like to see happen um, as I was preparing today, is that we'll be adding more information on these labels to say like border width and maybe parentheses like adds a shadow behind the button, border radius, the bigger the number, the more rounded the corners. And so those are the biggest things. Again, the nice thing is even if you don't remember what every single thing does, that's the great thing about the fact that it's in preview mode is I can literally change. If I don't remember, oh, I remember Stacy went over border radius, but I don't know what it means. You can literally put in 40 and click out, see what happens. Oh, wow, that made my buttons. I'm in the cell button styles. It made my buttons really rounded. And it doesn't change it on the public until you save and publish. So it's a lot of guess and check. You can play with it, see if you and your team like it. And if everybody gives you the green light, then you can save and publish your changes to your actual event listing. Any
Okay.
others?
I don't see any other. Oh, here we go. So the question is, should you keep track of what you change in case you want to go back?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so we have revision history. That's what that would be called. We have a revision history on a lot of things in ThunderTix. The web design tools is not yet revisioned. We don't yet have revision history on all of the changes, um, but it wouldn't be difficult for us to add. So it's an interesting question. I'm curious for the person who asked it, if you're wanting to see all of your changes while you were in preview mode or only your changes each time you publish. Because I would think you want to be able to preview and play and make tons of changes without having those revisions every single time saved. But it's an interesting point. I can raise it with our engineers to see the difference between saving revision history of every revision or only published revisions. I think published revisions is a good place to start.
The question kind of on top of that is if they don't publish, like you're editing on this and you don't hit publish, will it just disappear? Will the draft stay saved, for future use? How does that
Yeah.
kind of work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, just to demonstrate, right now the border radius on this cell button is a 40. I'm going to refresh the page. I'm going to go to the event manager. I'm completely off the page. I'm going to go back to the web design tools. I'm going to go back to the cell button styles, and the 40 is still there. So it really does allow you to preview, save your draft, walk away, come back to it tomorrow, come back to it next week, wait until you have the other members of your team give you the green light. Honestly, almost anything that you're going to do to brand it and make it look like your own website is going to be better than the default colors that we have. So you really can't hurt anything. So I would encourage you, yes, it's great to have the draft. It's great to be able to see it and play around with it before going published. But if you like what you're seeing and you think it's better than the original that we started with, go ahead and save your changes. It's going to be closer to your web brand's appearance, after these changes than before. So I'd encourage everybody to save and publish to really make some headway in branding. Yeah, I really appreciate everybody's time coming today. Again, I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody brand their sites. It's so important. One thing, I'm going to make one last comment that I do think is really important that I hadn't touched on earlier. If you are using ThunderTix with the embedded iframe, rather than the link, if you are embedding your events into the iframe, you may want to do all the things we saw here, except for the header. If you are embedding it in the page, you want to have the branded, button colors, the branded font colors and titles, but you don't want to have the logo at the top or the header colors branded because you're already going to be on your site where there's a logo, and it'd be kind of funny to see the ThunderTix events embedded with your logo a second time. So that's really the one gotcha I have to share with everybody today. This web design tools and branding it with your logo is fantastic, especially if you're using the link. It's still great even if you are embedding. It's just that I would skip the one step of the header styles if you are embedding with the iframe. Well, with that, we don't have any other questions. Thank you all so much for coming today. We'll make sure to share this recording by email and have it up so that you can reference it for later. We're going to work on improving our documentation so that things are more clear as you navigate your way through. If you have any questions in this process at all, our support team is always standing by waiting to answer your questions. If you want to show us what you're working on, show us how you'd like it to look, or tell us you're struggling, we'd be happy to walk you through improving that branding, or even doing a Zoom with you to get you up and running so that it's more in line with your current website's appearance. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.